Very warm welcome to the program. Now, a meeting between the federal government and organized labor to shelve the planned strike by the Nigeria Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress has ended in a deadlock. Minister of State for Labour and Employment in Kiruka Onyejocha, who initiated the negotiations, was unable to convince the unions to suspend the strike slated for February 23. In what looks like a season of threats to industrial peace, the Association of Master Bakers and Caterers of Nigeria is also threatening to down tools by February 27 if the federal government fails to implement the agreement it entered with the association in 2020. The NLC and TUC last week issued a 14-day nationwide strike notice to the federal government over the failure of the Bola Tinubu-led government to implement the 15-point agreement reached in October last year, following the planned protests that month over the removal of subsidy on petrol. The unions say despite the efforts to ensure industrial peace, the government seems unperturbed by the mass suffering and hardship across the country.
We are going to take into consideration the inflationary rate. We are going to take into consideration the environment, the global trend. We are going to take into consideration our challenges locally here, and also take into consideration our pause.
All right, that's Nkiruka Onyejocha, who is the Minister of State for Labour and Employment, replying on some of the tactics being taken by by the Labour Ministry and the federal government. And of course, not only that, even the Minister of Information replied to Labour, actually stating clearly, and I just want to quote him very quickly, that we're calling on Labour to exercise patience. We will look at the grey areas, let them come and speak with us in the interest of our nation. We cannot afford to go on another strike at this time again. Well, joining us now is the Head of Information and Public Affairs at the Nigeria Labour Congress, Benson, Upah, to help us understand if the Labour is listening to all the appeals by the federal government. Thank you so much, Benson, for joining us.
Good to meet you.
Well, the Labour unions are up in arms against the federal government again, and we just have 9 days before the strike now. And of course, as usual, Nigerians are also going about their business, hopefully, waiting and seeing maybe, both the labor unions and the federal government can reach a resolution. It looks like we're waiting for the last moment, like it happened in October again. Talk to us about all of that.
Well, first of all, let me correct this impression. The labor unions are not up in arms with the federal government. It's the federal government that is up in arms against the people. So, by its policies, the direction of everything, you know where we are now. At 1.566 naira to $1, and still moving. At a situation whereby even women, our peace-loving women, have taken to the streets. Not in one state, not two, not three. This is a bad signal. I know, Sambo, for those who are conversant with the history of food protests across the ages and across the climes, food protests should not be taken lightly, because it is when the people are pushed to the wall, when they no longer have a space to move to, that is when they resort to this type of thing. And shamefully, the police descended on them, arrested them, tear gassed them, had them locked up. What was that supposed to mean? That after beating us to this level, after humiliating us, weaponizing poverty, you say we should not cry? Meanwhile, the IG, I recall, on the day of the formalization of his appointment, he did say he felt charged like a tiger or like a lion. That, that he felt so charged by. So one was expecting him to go after the crooks, after the bandits or criminals. We didn't know that all that battery charging was to go after helpless women.
You call it battery charging,
yes.
Actually.
So we find that despicable. You know something? our democratic space is shrinking when you cannot allow even a peaceful protest. So what are we talking about? There has been a massive displacement of our well-being, socially, economically, and otherwise. And you say people should not talk. Even under the military, people protested. And you are saying people should not protest? That will not be acceptable to us. So, as I said at the beginning of my intervention, it's not the unions, it's not the labor centers that are up again in arms. It is the federal government. Through its hideous policies, and these policies coming from IMF, World Bank. But of course, some of us are not going to blame the World Bank or the IMF, even as we will tell them we don't want. Theirs come by way of advice. It's up to you to take it or not. So the blame squarely goes to our leaders who want to play boy to impress the World Bank and the IMF. You can imagine a situation, Sambo, they're saying that energy rates should still go up. By energy rates, I talk about light, electricity, and fuel, the liquids. At the moment, the Abuja rates, PMS, is minimum is 640 at Mobile, 670 at Etana, 680 at Total.
That's 618 naira per liter.
Per liter.
Of fuel, okay.
Per liter. Outside Abuja, the rates are totally different. In my own far-flung part of this country, a liter is 1,000 plus. And as many.
What part of the country is that actually?
You really want to know?
Yeah, I mean, if you're saying 1,000 naira per liter, I just had to intervene there.
You think it is not true?
I'm not doubting you actually.
Okay, let's leave that for now. So the issue is that life has gone beyond the level that Hobbes had in mind when he talked about the meanness, the brutishness, and the shortness of life, and so on and so forth. We have never seen this. We've never seen this before. Never, ever.
All right.
And for how long can we take this? So these are the issues. It's not at the notice of protest is not about wages only. If you take a look at the agreement, it's here. I have it here.
Yeah, the 15-point
the
agreement.
15-point agreement, yes. And thank God you were able to articulate this, So if you go to this agreement, you find out that it positively affects all the sectors of the economy. Everybody. You don't have to be a worker in the real sense of it. So issues of movement. Look at food. You can't buy food now. Look at inflation. It changes per hour. Cost of living. Look at it. We have been reduced to the barest minimum. And this is not acceptable. This cannot be about renewed hope. Whoever describes this as renewed hope must be a pervert.
You think so?
Oh, sure.
Well, very strong words there.
Yes.
Now, let's talk about the content of that agreement, actually, some of the things, because the federal government says they've already met some of them, and it looks like Labour is not understanding with them. When you got into that meeting with the Minister of State for Labour and Employment on Monday night, what exactly was she telling you, and how come both parties couldn't reach an agreement? Because the government is insisting that it has done some part of the agreement.
Well, I'm not sure. Well, first of all, let me commend her for being a proactive minister of Labour. Before we got to where we are now, she took the initiative to come to the headquarters of NLC, and we had a lovely conversation on how to resolve some of these issues. But of course, you must also agree with me that the buck does not stop on her table. So the meeting of Monday was quite conciliatory but firm. And I'm going to show you a few things here. FG to pay workers wage award. This was one of the things.
Yeah.
This is one. And other promises yet to be implemented. Do you know on the issue of wage award, the agreement states that the federal government grants a wage award of 35,000 naira only to all federal government workers beginning from the month of September, pending when a new national minimum wage is expected to have been signed into law.
Yeah.
From September, October, November, December, January, we're now in February.
How many months were paid by the federal government?
Ask them.
I mean, I remember sometime last year, they said, I think it was around November or so, they actually went to town that they paid for that month and all of that. So let's know cumulatively now.
And they also went to town to say that they will not pay again.
Interesting times.
Yes.
And there was also, apart from this one, for the federal workers of 35,000, there was also 25,000 naira that's supposed to be paid, I think, to some households. Yeah, that's number 8 on the list. It said the federal government commits to pay 25,000 naira per month for 3 months, starting from October 2023 to 50 million households, including
vulnerable pensioners.
And the question is, it looks like we haven't really seen people who have benefited from this.
I raised this question yesterday. I said, anybody who knows anyone who has benefited from this, they should come and say so. On our part, apart from the issue of need, one of the reasons why we said pay vulnerable pensioners is to know if this thing will actually be done. And as I speak with you, to the best of our knowledge, no vulnerable pensioner has received this. And by vulnerable, generally, pensioners are vulnerable. But in this context, vulnerability means pensioners who receive pensions that are so low that even to mention what they receive, quite saddening.
Yeah, I mean,
because some, do you believe it? Some take as low as 10,000, some even below 10,000. What do you want them to do? And they don't even get this pension payment as when due.
All right. I mean, there are other things too.
Sure.
The other one is that the federal government suspends collection of value-added tax on diesel for 6 months beginning from October 2023. Have you been able to verify if they've suspended VAT on diesel? Because that affects the movement of food items, manufacturers, which is supposed to allow them breathe.
Everything. To the best of our knowledge, that was not done. So I answer in the affirmative. It was not done. If it was done, it would have reflected on the prices of commodities, services, and even for manufacturers, many of them that are exiting Nigeria at this moment. You remember GSK and others. You'll be shocked how many have left and how many are preparing to leave. And the direct consequential effect on prices of drugs or medicine, as it's called here. A friend was telling me the other day that he now buys Augmentin 65,000. How much was Augmentin being sold? But now 65,000. So apart from the direct economic effect, we have psychological effect, and we have other effects. People are dying because how many people can afford this? They can't afford this. So it's not done. We can look at other.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm beginning to actually take a look at number 12 there, because there was that talk that there will be a joint visitation to be made to the refineries to ascertain their rehabilitation status. I mean, that's very easy. So how come we haven't seen so much, both from the NLC? Because if the NLC didn't go there too, then of course, maybe the NLC didn't remind the government.
You know what?
Because the visitation isn't supposed to cost so much, right?
Yeah. So, was that visit done? It was not done. But you know why? The goalpost, as per the completion date of the refineries, fixing of the refineries, the goalpost kept shifting. You see,
they said it's a mechanical completion.
Look. It's been. Look, even if people are building refineries afresh, so it tells you the level of insincerity and unseriousness attached to this. Because if the refineries were up and running, at least would have benefited, even though some elements in the oil sector, particularly NNPC, said, well, it will change nothing. And some of us said that must be something else. If only the transportation cost alone is removed, insurance costs on the highway, if generally the ex-coastal and in-coastal charges are removed, that it should translate to the price of the PMS, the pump price of PMS, and so on and so forth. But then, to answer your question directly, that visit or visitation was not done. So it is up to the government to explain why it was not done.
Interesting times ahead. And of course, the federal government, in number 4, actually said it accepts to vote 100 billion naira for the provision of high-capacity CNG buses for mass transit in Nigeria. Provisions are also being made for initial 55,000 CNG conversion, kits to kickstart an auto gas conversion program. And then while work is ongoing on state-of-the-art CNG stations nationwide, the rollout aims to commence by November with pilots across 10 campuses nationwide. That was November of 2023.
Yes.
Do you by chance have any, did you review this with the Minister of State for Labor and Employment to find out if the government has actually done this since November?
If government had done this, it would have been obvious. There are few cities that come before Abuja, if any, actually. That statement would have been made in Abuja, or Lagos, or Port Harcourt, or any of these, the mega cities, Kano, Kaduna. Have you seen any CNG bus since that time?
Well, I know there are some that are parked at the Eagle Square in Abuja here.
Then
several green buses.
Then, let me tell you, I can tell you the story. The guy who was part of that arrangement eventually had to pack his buses from Eagle Square, took them to somewhere and had to partner with some other people. So, but then it will not be the first time the government will be making this kind of promise and observing it in breach. In an earlier agreement, September 2020 to 2019, it was agreed that 200 CNG buses were going to be made available to us at Labour. You know how many we got? 2.
Interesting. And you didn't raise the alarm.
Why not?
The federal government said 200.
Why not? We did. And that arrangement was supposed to be made with Innocent. Innocent is here. Innocent has capacity. We have met with Innocent. And also, let me tell you this. On the issue of conversion, at some point, the government said the conversion was going to be about 800,000 per dozen. But we met with some experts who said they will be able to do it at 250,000 per vehicle. And that they were ready to give facility, some kind of loan scheme provide some kind of loan scheme that people will be able to pay this over time. We had a fruitful discussion with this group. We are going to use the resources of road transport workers, so on and so forth. It was some kind of comprehensive partnership. The technical part of the job, the distribution, and everything connected with this. Their only prayer, but it was not a demand per se, if we could access the gas money with the CBN. There's some money.
Nigeria gas expansion project.
Yeah, or something. So, but that they didn't even make that a precedent, a condition precedent for them to start this project. Government didn't key into it. Okay, and here we have a local manufacturer in the person of Innocent. We met with Innocent. And we also have the Chinese Yutong buses have been running in Nigeria. In fact, for 10, 15.
Rufai, I remember the former Minister of FCT Rufai actually brought them into Abuja.
In fact, the Labour City Transport Services in Lagos, they use Yutong buses. Okay? So, and at the Yutong company, is ready to provide these buses in case local capacity is lacking. But then all government needed to have done was to start small and grow big, okay, or to tap into these opportunities. But somehow it has become an opportunity to dance like this again.
All right, you're speaking in parables now. Yes. Well, as we try to round off this conversation, the government says you are not understanding with it. The economy is in bad shape. The government is only trying to fix things. In fact, one of the chieftains of the APC actually says Nigerians are blaming President Tinubu for the problems that emanated from former President Buhari's government. And they say you are not understanding with the federal government. And do you think that this strike, nationwide strike, is the last resort that the NLC and TUC can engage in?
Well, Sambo, when President Tinubu, in his earlier address or remarks to the nation, said, I asked for this job. I'm not going to make excuses. I was impressed by that. But now suddenly, the narrative is changing. The usual script of blaming your predecessor. Buhari blamed his predecessor. Okay? He blamed his predecessor. And Tinubu or Tinubu's people now have started blaming Buhari. What that tells us is that they have run out of ideas and it's dangerous. When there is a resort to blame game, that's a bad signal. Yet, Chief Bola Tinubu, even before he became president, was a major pillar of APC. He was in the know of everything, or there'll be presumption of knowledge. Okay? For him to come around today now, for his acolytes to come begin to say, hey, all of this happened because Buhari did ABCD. That will not be acceptable to us. But I tell you something, we should not continue like this.
So you're all set for strike on February 23?
Oh, sure. Except there is something fundamentally happens. And this document is here. You know the last item.
Yeah, that's the last item that I want us to talk about.
The last item that this memorandum shall be filed in the relevant court of competent jurisdiction within 1 week as consent judgment by the federal government.
Yes. And you remember last time, actually, as Festus Osifo, the TUC president, when he appeared on this show, why that has not been deposited with the courts for this to be seen as a consent judgment?
Well, the issue is this, whether this is deposited with a competent court of jurisdiction as a consent judgment or not is binding. It's a binding document. Nobody signed this document under duress. So it's binding, and it's time governments are held to account for their promises. You see, if not, let me tell you, nobody will take governance seriously. Nobody will take democracy seriously if this continues. Do you understand? So much money is available now. You know, ordinarily, when oil prices are weak or are bad in the international crude oil market, governments back home do a bit of they lower the exchange rate so that they can have money to solve local problems. Okay, but here we have a situation whereby prices are still good in the international crude oil market, and we have had massive devaluation of 466%. The naira has been devalued by 466%.
All right.
And inflation has risen by 213%. And all of that, so it means more dollars for government and more naira for the system here.
Yeah.
And we have that, and we have an authority that the federal allocations will increase by 69%. That is up to 5.4 trillion naira this year.
Okay.
That's a lot of money, even though we have not seen a quality of life.
I mean, even in the states, I mean, you're always talking about the federal government. You're not talking about state governments who are also supposed to pay these wage awards, who are also supposed to support the federal government. And that's where I think the NLC too is also not highlighting so much. How much engagement have you had with the state governors and all of that?
No, we have.
Before I let you go.
No, we have. We do have. We do have. But one thing is this. The federal government was supposed to lead by example. And the resources that are available to the federal the government is almost doubling that of the state. I think 50-something% to the state's 26 point whatever. So you see, the government, the federal government, is supposed to lead by example.
All right.
And don't forget that this agreement is hard with them, even as Labour is on the exclusive legislative list.
Yeah,
so,
I mean.
So we are not, in fact, for those who see us as meddlesome, I want to be put on record as saying that Labour has never been this patient with any government. At a forum of governors some time ago, I told them we are being accused of being another arm of APC. I said so. Okay? Some also have this impression. At a media forum the other day, some say, well, why is it that you always call off your protest or strike action after meeting with the government in the villa a day or two to whatever? And I say, are you suggesting that it's settlement and the lady whatever? So, and I said, well, settlement, nobody has been settled.
All right.
And that to get settled in this kind of circumstance is even highly dangerous, because once you get settled, it becomes like the sort of Damocles. They wave it each time they want. Each time you want to protest, they say, you understand?
So right now the government is not waving that sword of Damocles before you.
Nobody has been settled, let alone deliver something.
All right,
Sambo, I want to tell you that nobody has been settled.
In 30 seconds,
and that
the government...
all we've been doing is to show understanding with this government. And the government is not responding in the same measure.
All right, in 30 seconds, before I let you go, in 30 seconds, if the federal government goes to court and gets a court order against the NLC and TUC, what will happen? Because we've seen this happening in the past.
Well, Sambo, we respect the courts, we respect the judiciary, but the courts are not more important than our constitution.
Interesting perspective,
yes.
And I think it's a very good place to actually leave it.
Yes.
We must thank you so much. Benson Upah is the head of information and public affairs at Nigeria's major labor center, the Nigerian Labour Congress, and of course he's been speaking on behalf of the entire labor centers in the country, that's the NLC and TUC, on the proposed nationwide strike, which comes up in the next 9 days on February 23, precisely if the federal government doesn't do so much after a meeting called by the Minister of State for Labour and Employment, Nkirika Onyejocha, ended in a stalemate just this Monday night. Well, I must thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
We hope it just doesn't degenerate into a strike because the economy is so fragile.